Hey, my name is Payton Doyle, and I'm stepping into the Warzone.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Step into the war zone.
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 Friday night war zone.
Friday night war zone.
Hey yo, it's Phil Flames. I'm with Mike on the mic and Joe Morley. About to bring you more heat. Welcome to the war zone. You can have a floor seat. Watch them on your iPhone. Watch them on your Galaxy. It's a sports debate show. Straight up out of SoCal. Gather around the laptop. Friday nights it goes down. And we on the radio. Coming to your locale. Got into the third round. Better bring the smoke now. Step into the war zone.
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 Friday night war zone.
Friday night war zone.
Step into the 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 war zone.
Friday night war zone.
Friday night war zone.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the War Zone. Newest episode. Excited for it. I'm Mike on the mic. You see some unfamiliar faces here too. Welcome to the War Zone. Joe Morley couldn't make it because he's too busy crying about the Las Vegas Raiders draft still. Hey, gotta give him some time to recover. It's just too much of a turnaround for him to just hop on and start talking about sports. So we have Tony Tucker here instead. And then our guest today, he is the host of the Payton Doyle Show on YouTube. He's a huge Cleveland Browns fan. So Cleveland, this one is indeed for you. You can find him at PDSports_ on Instagram and at the Payton Doyle Show on TikTok. It's Payton Doyle. Welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, guys? I'm ready to get into it. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Thanks for coming. And Tony Tucker, welcome to the show as well. I'm not gonna give you that much of an intro. You're not as important.
You don't need it. You know where to find me. I'm all over the war zone. I am so excited to have a fellow Cleveland Browns fan pay no attention to this mess back here, because I'm on the train, brother. So Cleveland, let's do it. The city by the lake, ready to talk about all this good stuff.
I think it's the best time in the Cleveland Browns history to be a Cleveland Browns fan. I really think it is.
Definitely.
2021.
Definitely is.
2021. This moment, this day is the best day in the Cleveland Browns fandom. I'll tell you that. So we got 3 Cleveland Browns themed topics today. Kind of a 1A. We're just going to briefly go over it, even though it is big news, because we want to get into what's going to happen this season with the Cleveland Browns from a Cleveland Browns fan and a Cleveland Browns supporter. Is that what you're calling yourself, Tony? Or are you going full-blown fan this year?
Oh, no. I just, I like to put my fandom where my mouth is, and I'm running off that I think that the Browns are going to the Super Bowl this year. And I have plenty of evidence to back it up. Not really, but I'm going to pretend like I do.
All right, cool.
See,
cool,
that's okay, Tony, but you need to take down that Troy Polamalu jersey. Call yourself a
He's
Browns fan.
always
I'm sorry.
talking about
It's just staring me right in the face, and I'm like, you can't say anything good about the Browns.
Well, my Koromoa jersey's in the mail, so that is, as soon as I get it, it'll be in that place.
Okay.
Speaking of Koromoa, the topic 1A is the draft class. And what are your guys' thoughts about the draft class? I'll let Payton go first because he is the actual Cleveland Browns fan, not temporary Cleveland Browns fan. What do you think of this draft class, man? You got to be excited.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, it was obvious going into this offseason that the biggest need was to improve that defense for the Browns, and that's exactly what Andrew Berry has done for the team. Going out and getting Greg Newsome in the first round, I was not expecting that. Personally, I wanted Owusu Koromora in the first round, but I'm glad we got him in the second round. He was my 18th ranked player this year in the draft, and we got him at 52. So you could just imagine how extremely excited I am to see him in a Browns jersey. And he's also a Browns fan. Some old tweets have revealed that. So I'm sure he's excited to be a Brown, and we're excited to have him in as a Cleveland Browns fan on the team, because we really needed a linebacker who could cover in the slot, and that is exactly what he is best at. So his versatility is going to help the defense out a lot. And then Greg Newsome is going to add some great depth at the cornerback position with Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams, and then we signed Troy Hill. The Browns, their defense is going to be much, much improved, which is very, very good for that team.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. And you guys got the goat hunter, Clowney, over there to offset Myles Garrett. And this is what I love about the Cleveland Browns draft, because they came in with the ability to add depth, right? That is the thing that good teams do, and the Browns could finally do that. They didn't need to try and hit a home run with whatever it is. They already had the foundation, and when they can get a stud corner like that, because if there's always going to be injuries, you want to be able to have that flexibility out there. And then one of the problems that I saw was, like you said, in the middle of the field, you need a linebacker, you need somebody at that middle level that can go sideways and front and back and add pressure. And when they announced that pick in Cleveland and that place went nuts for JOK, it was fantastic just to see everybody freaking out in Cleveland and having a good time.
Yeah, and this is why we aren't NFL GMs, right? Because we're all sitting there at 26, like, how did you pass on JOK? I'm sure there was some stuff behind the scenes. I know he had some concerns with like a heart condition or something like that, something random that caused him to slide, or what people are saying caused him to slide. I'm sure the NFL GMs had access to that information. Sit there, take Greg Newsome with confidence. You're going to get JOK in the second round. What a move. What a gutsy move. And I like to say, to go back to the point that Tony made about the depth, the biggest problem about the Browns and them being so hyped up that they're going to take the leap finally over the last, 5, 6, 7 years was coaching and depth. And both those problems are solved. And now the Browns got to be ready to make a run.
Well, I have a question for Payton real quick, because I actually believe that Newsome should have been the pick anyways, right? Because in a passing league, you really have to be able to have guys that can play one-on-one. So to me, it seems like you're getting more value there, unless Mora has the ability to rush the passer that I'm not seeing. Like, I think that he can. I just don't know if that was like an elite part of his game.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, looking back on it, like, personally, I wanted Koromoa. He was just my guy. Like, Mike knows this. I was on the this Justin show with him on last Monday, and I said that I wanted Koromoa to be our first round pick. But looking back on it, yes, in a passing league, you need guys that are going to be able to cover guys like Tyreek Hill, especially in the AFC, Stephon Diggs, and the great wide receivers out there in Buffalo. So obviously, looking back on it, adding more cornerback depth, if Greg Newsome turns out to be a lockdown corner, we're going to have 2 lockdown corners on each side, and that's going to be such an incredible luxury to have in a passing league, like you said.
Yeah, it's going to be a big deal down the stretch, especially later on in the season when Greg Newsome starts to get into the field things and start to really show what he's going to be as a player. That's about the time of the year that you're going to need him to step up, possibly. Just because you're not going to make it through a whole NFL season without injuries to your secondary and without injuries to your wide receivers. It's just going to happen. And speaking of wide receivers, what do you think about the 3rd round pick, Anthony Schwartz?
I mean, that's another depth pick.
Yeah.
The Browns, for the first time in my lifetime, have now got the luxury that when we go into the draft, they can draft for depth, and they don't need players to come in and instantly make a huge difference on the team. Anthony Schwartz is obviously, we all know the speed. He does need work in the route running and stuff like that. But if guys like, Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones start getting hurt, or even, hopefully not, but Odell and Jarvis, this is a guy who can still take the top off of defenses and come in and be an impact player for that offense.
Absolutely. I didn't know anything about Schwartz. Remember, I was a little confused, and I was like, is a brother named Schwartz? And you're like, yeah, he's one of your light-skinned fellows. And I was excited about that. I love the idea that they could draft somebody that might be nothing but a punt returner until there's injuries or necessary like that. You put him back there at kick returner. These are not, they needed, for my whole life, the Browns have been drafting guys like, we got to draft this guy, and he's probably going to play if he's drafted in the top 5 rounds. And now they're drafting guys, and they're like, it's really nice to live in a world of luxury. That's I'm going to talk more about the winning formula and all that stuff when we get to a later topic. But when I saw this pick, I was like, this is exactly what the Browns need. This guy will hit in week 6 or 7, and only Browns fans or people who follow the draft closely are going to be like, this guy came out of nowhere. And it's like, no, the Browns were planning for this, for him to debut for a couple weeks and just blow people away.
Yeah, Schwartz was a guy that was a post day one guy that I was a big fan of, someone I thought was a little bit of a sneaky pick, and he went to the perfect team. I was thinking the Chargers, instead of that Josh Palmer pick, could be thinking Anthony Schwartz, but he didn't really quite slide to us. But He's perfect for a team that has a bunch of receivers that are really good route runners, really good at getting some open space. He can bust the top off the defense and let Odell and Jarvis go to work down low, which is what they love to do. And they have Peoples-Jones also. And like you said, Rashad Higgins. This is just another guy that can play that role if he needs to. And he's possibly going to be a punt returner. You might like this comparison, Tony. He reminds me a lot of Eddie Royal when he was a lot younger.
What?
Yeah,
okay.
He reminds me a lot of Eddie Royal when he was a lot younger. Anyway.
For you younger people, Eddie Royal, excellent game breaker, right?
Yeah.
Used to be, especially in Denver, late in the season, to be cold, slipping, the guy could move, get open, create big plays. This is a high compliment. Eddie Royal was a good special teamer.
Yeah, I loved Eddie Royal to death. He came to the Chargers after Denver and had a lot of fun with Phillip Rivers. He's just Phillip Rivers' kind of receiver, man. Phillip Rivers loves those little speedy guys that he can just get the ball to on those little dump offs, and they could take it a long ways. Anyways, moving on. Topic number 1. That was 1A, in case anyone's confused. We're only supposed to do 3 topics on this show, so I had to put in a 1A so we could talk about the draft class to start it off. Are the Browns poised for a deep playoff run?
Yes, they definitely are. I mean, looking on paper, right, the Browns probably have the most complete team in the entire NFL. They have the best offensive line in the league. They're getting Odell back. They're getting Jarvis. Okay, their wide receivers are extremely deep. The best backfield in the NFL with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Baker Mayfield, all he needs to do is not turn the ball over, and that offense is going to be a successful offense. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball. You just got Malik Jackson. You have Myles Garrett. Then you got Jadeveon Clowney. Then you have Denzel Ward. You're also getting Grant Delpit back at safety. You also got John Johnson from the Rams, who was a great pickup in the offseason at safety as well to add more depth at that position. The linebackers, you just got a great second-round pick in Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Oh, and Olivier Vernon's coming back from his torn Achilles from last year. Oh, and by the way, you also got another great rookie cornerback in Greg Newsome in the first round. So, yes, the Browns are poised for a deep playoff run. Last year, they just beat the doors off Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. It was one of the most unbelievable things that I've ever witnessed in my entire life. A day that almost me and plenty of other young Browns fans out there thought was never going to happen. So seeing that was very inspiring. So, in seeing the additions that we've made this offseason, I think the Browns are poised to make the Super Bowl, in all honesty.
Okay, I love it. And this is, like I said, I've already alluded to it. I have the Browns as my pick to go to the Super Bowl because I've compared them, and people laugh at me before, but the 90s Cowboys had a formula of running Emmitt Smith behind a good offensive line, playing defense. You had Deion Sanders back there. The Browns are building that. And everybody goes, oh, well, it's a new game, Tony. You're old school. That doesn't work, right? But use the people who have the ability to zig when everybody else is zagging or whatever it is. That was the Patriots' formula of winning, right? You're building it. They've built a formula. They know that it wins. And then if you can add all the playmakers into that, there's no law that says you have to throw the ball like Patrick Mahomes to win, right? There is a lot of evidence showing that this will be successful. You have to have the quarterback that is able to make the big time throws and be confident. And for the longest time growing up when I was a kid, everybody had the hangover of the Browns, of Ernest Biner and Bernie Kosar and that stink from the choke in the Marty Schottenheimer era. But they never found the quarterback that was confident enough to wake up and say, not only am I feeling dangerous, but I'm about to go out there and slay anybody in my way. I don't care what happened 35 years ago to a bunch of old beer-bellied dudes. I'm going out there and I'm going to win. And you have to have Baker being more confident than his ability to overcome sort of that narrative that makes you a loser. It was the LeBron factor in Cleveland. Cleveland was the Cavs were the same way. You overcome this like bad mindset. You're from Cleveland, Peyton. Yes? Yeah. Whenever I go there and because I'm from the Midwest, I grew up in Marquette. You talk to these people and I was like, why are these fans so beaten down? They were already like, we're okay. Our Indians are okay. Manny Ramirez is okay. We'll be Bartolo. I was like, don't you guys have any hope? They never had any hope. It was the saddest group of nice people I had ever met. And I was like, damn, Cleveland. So they put together a winning formula, and it will prevail. They'll be in the Super Bowl in 2022.
Manny Ramirez on the Indians talk. Whew. Whew. I do know that he did play for the Indians, and the only reason is because one of my dad's like best high school friends actually made it all the way through the developmental and everything, AAA, AA, to the Indians. It was on their roster when Manny Ramirez got drafted and played one season as Manny Ramirez's backup. So it's actually pretty cool. But anyways, back to the Browns talk. Yeah, they built a roster that on paper, when you look at it, you say this team has almost zero question marks. Now, the one question mark you could say, and I know you just gave Baker Mayfield huge praise, is Baker Mayfield. But I think he proved last year that in a highly functional offense, he can get the ball to the weapons successfully and let them do most of the work. All he has to do is not turn the ball over. Like Payton Doyle said, just get the ball to those weapons, whether it's Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. It's going to be Anthony Schwartz. I'm sure is going to get some screen passes this year and in years to come. This team is probably set to compete for the AFC Championship, and I'm on your guys' bandwagon now, officially after this draft. I was hesitant to put my toes in that water, ready to compete for the AFC for the next 2 to 3, 4, depending on how long they extend these guys and keeping them together 5 years possibly.
Before we move on to the next topic, I want to touch on this. It's about what Tony said. What the Browns have built with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach is a new culture. It's a change. It's a big change. Finally, for the first time in my lifetime as a Browns fan, we have a guy who is a leader of men at the head coaching position. You see what Kevin Stefanski has done in his career before he got hired to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He stayed in the Minnesota Vikings organization for 17 seasons, right? So for almost as long as I've been alive, he was working with the Minnesota Vikings. And he lasted through 3 different head coaching regimes there, and they still retained him. That says a lot to me. That means this guy belongs in the NFL as a head coach, because he lasted through 3 different head coaching regimes where he could have easily been fired and replaced by a guy that they liked, but he had so much respect around the NFL that they kept him in the Minnesota Vikings organization, and it worked out. He took Case Keenum as a quarterback's coach and an offensive coordinator to an NFC championship game. Case Keenum. I mean, a guy who's a career backup. And I certainly think that we can all agree that Baker Mayfield is better than Case Keenum at a quarterback in the NFL. So now you see the second year in this offense. You saw towards the second half of the season last year, Baker Mayfield and the Browns offense started playing a lot better, getting adjusted to the new offense. This is going to be Baker Mayfield's first year having a head coach week 1 this season that he did last season. So I'm very excited to see what the Browns are going to do this season.
And a more complete offseason is going to help a ton too.
Yep, I agree. I love it. Stability. That is something that they never had, right? 17 years. That's almost as old as my second, favorite pair of shoes, I think. Stefanski is going to bring them into a new era of Cleveland Browns football that some of these bad franchises can't. Like the Lions are making good decisions, but I don't love the coaching hire, right? It's more affect. You need a guy who is mentally stable. Like Stefanski was part of that the Vikings organization that had some Gary Anderson up and down moments. They had some runs with Culpepper and stuff like that. He was there and saw how that works. And he comes from a guy who's also very stable in Mike Zimmer. One of the things that I have, as growing up a Packers fan, is these teams in the Midwest, it's hard to get good recruits to come to the Clevelands and the Vikings and the Green Bays and whatever else. So you have to be able to draft, almost run it like a family, like they do that good on the East Coast too, like the Steelers do that, New England. So if you're not going to be able to get high-flying free agents, you have to build something that's very stable, and I think Stefanski's going to be great at that.
Yeah, that's the best way to turn it around. And talking about guys going from, the big city in New York all the way to Cleveland, a little bit of a smaller market team. Let's talk about Odell Beckham Jr. for a second and his future with the Browns. I know Payton Doyle is probably tired of talking about it. It's been a topic for the last 3 seasons. But in my opinion, honestly, if he's going to get traded from the Cleveland Browns, I think right now this offseason and maybe even heading into the first couple weeks of the year is probably the most likely chance that we've had with Odell. It's no longer just a rumor to me. I think the Browns actually probably could think about it just because you saw that you guys were really successful without him in the offense at the end of the year last year. What's your thoughts, Peyton? Do you want to keep him around? Do you want to see him go? And if you were going to trade him, what would the cost be? Like what's his of value worth in the trade market?
I think unless the Browns are blown away by an offer for Odell Beckham, that they should seriously consider keeping him. And I think it's the best move to make sure that Odell Beckham Jr. is a Cleveland Brown. I don't see how, this idea of trading away your best receiver, a guy who is an all-around versatile weapon in that offense, a coach's dream in an offense that is very creative. I don't see how people came up with this idea of trading him away. Oh, he's a locker room problem. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. In 2019, it was Odell Beckham who called the meeting to try to repair the relationship between Baker, the offensive coordinator at the time, I forgot his name because he was terrible, and Freddie Kitchens. Okay. It was Odell Beckham Jr., the diva wide receiver, who called that meeting to make sure everyone was happy. Ultimately, it obviously didn't end up working out, but he still went out of his way to try to make sure the offense was running and everyone was getting along. So I'm not buying this whole media thing that Odell is this locker room diva wide receiver problem. I'm not buying it. And I think now that Baker sees that he can do it without Odell, now you're just going to add Odell to what was already an extremely good offense last season. I think that's going to create a lot of fireworks and it's going to be extremely special. I don't see why the Browns would consider trading away Odell unless they're going to get like 5 first-round picks.
I don't see any value that would be commensurate for receiving, for getting rid of OBJ, right? Because what are you going to get? Maybe a 3rd, 4th round pick for a guy coming off of Achilles injury? They don't really need that. I mean, yes, we might be looking at more depth. I could see a scenario and maybe an offensive lineman goes down and they look to a team that says, oh, hey, you have a good young player. We need a guard to come in here. I could see something like that. But ultimately, you keep him there. I don't think he's your best receiver because when I think of best, I like consistency. So I'm a Jarvis Landry guy. He's definitely the most dynamic playmaker that they have. And I think there's ways that you can incorporate him. I did feel, and I would be interested to hear how Payton feels about this, I felt a little bit like maybe Baker was pressing too hard to get him the football in some of those scenarios, and he excels better with Higgins and Landry. It's more consistent. He knows where they're going to be. I don't like him trying to make crazy ESPN catches to OBJ. So I think he's there. He's in the fold, and he just adds another layer to a really good offense.
Also, they were just getting used to the offense, in my opinion. You saw a little bit of growing pains with the new offense being installed, and you really saw it hit its stride. At that Baltimore Ravens game, which we'll talk about a little bit more in the next topic, it really hit its peak. I know you guys lost that game, but the offense looked unstoppable against a good defense. It was amazing. It was an amazing game, and it was amazing to see. But as far as Odell Beckham Jr., as long as he heals up fine, like you said, he's still a dynamic playmaker. Tony kind of tied it all together by saying there's not much value out there for him as far as making it worth it to the Cleveland Browns to trade Odell Beckham Jr. I still think he's going to be a great route runner at the very minimum. He might not have the top end speed that he had in New York. He'll never have that again. He's been through multiple lower body injuries, but as a route runner, I'm sure his IQ, he's just getting better and better at learning the game of football. He's still going to be a solid receiver for the Browns. He does not need to go out and put up 1,200, 1,300 yard seasons to make the impact that Odell Beckham can impact in an offense. He just does not need to do that anymore. And as far as him being a diva and all that kind of stuff, he was just a passionate young football player. What I saw was passion. Yeah, he took it overboard when he's hitting the net and stuff like that, but he's just a passionate young football player just coming out of college. He had a tough time with injuries his rookie year, so real passionate, real eager to get out in the field, and you saw that on the field. I like seeing that kind of passionate stuff from my players while they're playing. Joey Bosa does the same stuff on the sideline. Because he's this big, burly man, he's not a diva. You don't see that in the media at all.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm not buying the whole Odell's a bad teammate kind of thing. He just loves football. He just is passionate about the game. And, obviously you've seen him get frustrated sometimes, but that happens. People get frustrated. And back to what Tony said, though. Yes, I think that Baker's connection with Rashard Higgins is better than every other wide receiver on the team. For whatever reason, it just feels like Baker knows where Rashard Higgins is and he knows what he's going to do. Like he has him figured out. But I feel like the idea of Baker was better without Odell was more of what Mike said. And that was the offense had just found its stride right when Odell got hurt. Like, it was just terrible timing because Odell got hurt in the beginning of week 7. So you're almost halfway through the season at that point, and you're learning a new offense. You didn't have a preseason because of COVID. You didn't have really an offseason to learn the new offense, the new system. So I think they just started to get that in gear and getting that going right when Odell got hurt. So I feel like that's why it seemed like Baker was so much better without Odell. But if the coaching staff and Kevin Stefanski does feel as if Baker is forcing the ball to Odell a little bit, then that's on them to go and fix that and make sure Baker doesn't do that anymore if they feel that's a problem.
Yeah, we also live in such a weird time where they see everything and hear everything. They might say that they don't, but if you thumb through your app messages and your Odell or your Baker or whatever it is, and that 75% of the comments say like, oh, you're force feeding, even if they're looking for one friendly comment from a fan, you're seeing in your head over and over again, like, Odell's going to be pissed if he's not getting 100 yards and 8 catches and a touchdown a game. It's like, okay, get out of your world of fantasy football and enter the world of champions like the New England Patriots and recently Hall of Fame, wide receiver who retired, Julian Edelman, and let's just get it done and get to the playoffs and let's win. And I think if you get to the playoffs and you can, have option routes with Landry and go routes with these other guys and Higgins, here's the thing I love about Higgins too. He seems to understand when Baker gets a little flustered, he just comes back to the ball nicely. He's just so aware of when it plays, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Higgins on the back line catches a touchdown. I'm like, how did this guy know to run to that open spot? He's like a genie or something.
Yeah, and I think that even saying that the offense hit their stride at like around midseason might even be an understatement. It was really impressive. There's no way that losing Odell night and day did it like that. It was a progressive thing, and then they hit a point where it was like this might be one of the best offenses in football with the way the offensive line and the running backs were playing and getting things going. All right, speaking of the offense, move on to the final topic. We know that they exercised Baker Mayfield's 5th year of his contract. The big contract, the big payday for Baker is coming soon. It's coming quick. Doyle, are you ready to give Baker that contract? If so, why? If not, what are you thinking he needs to do this season to really be confident in giving him that big deal? I don't know if he's going to get max record-breaking deal, but he's still going to be upwards of $30 million for sure a year.
Yeah, definitely. That's obviously the ballpark range for Baker Mayfield for sure. I don't think that the Browns should be looking towards giving Baker an extension yet. I think they need to see how he plays in the second year of this offense, and I think that's why they gave him that 5th-year option as opposed to extending him just right now. I think it's a smart idea, though. You don't want to give an extension too early like we've seen before with Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Obviously, those guys just didn't pan out. Baker Mayfield, though, showed extreme level of improvements under Kevin Stefanski last year. In the last 10 games, I have the stats right here, Baker Mayfield averaged 246.8 yards per game in the last 10 games this season. He threw for 16 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. That's the big part right there. 2 interceptions in 10 games. And obviously, I mean, and a lot of people don't really take this into consideration. The Browns had a 3-game home stretch against the Texans, the Raiders, and the Eagles, where they were playing in like monsoons. I mean, it was like hurricane gust level winds in Cleveland there right off of Lake Erie. And it was super rainy. I mean, it was unbelievable. And if that weather was better, Baker Mayfield's stats could be looking even a lot better than they already do in the final 10 games of the season. So I think Baker Mayfield is definitely projecting towards a guy that's worth up to $35 million a year. But personally, I want to see another good year out of him. I want to see more consistency. And I think it's the same thing with the Browns.
So just to touch on the weather thing. So I used to be, Brett Favre is my favorite player of all time. Lambeau, the Midwest winter, you get those games at the end of the year where they have fans coming in to shovel off the yard markers so we know we can see the field, right? You shoveling out stands so people can even sit down. We're in our, jumpsuits just to get out there. That's part of the reason that Favre never went over 40 touchdowns some of those great years is the end of the year would just be crazy, and people don't understand that. Drew Brees and these other guys could do these great things. They're playing in domes. They're playing in nice weather. Now, it kind of hurts my theory with Peyton Manning in Denver and Tom Brady out there. But to get back to Baker Mayfield, you got to pay this guy now. Like to me, I'm giving him the money now rather than have like messy things and just say like, hey, Baker, we extended you. What do we think about 34 million? That's not going to hamstring us or whatever it is. We give you this thing now. We give you maybe a little more guaranteed money instead of you hitting free agency and we end up in a tag situation. It gets kind of ugly because Baker does have sort of like a little bit of that attitude and arrogance that could spill the wrong direction and be off-putting to the fan base that is really going his direction right now. As long as you guys keep winning, I think the favor keeps moving towards him. So I would, try to meet somewhere in that reality space that says, hey, what's this number that's going to allow us to keep great players around you and you get paid your money and you're set for life.
Yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up, and it's something to keep in the back of your mind is there's a chance he goes out there and plays at a very high level and his price goes up. His price goes up for that extension at the end of the year. But then I think it's a win-win scenario. Yes, you're going to pay $5 more million to keep Baker around, but you got a good quarterback for 5 years. So, I mean, it's a win-win scenario, in my opinion. If they go ahead and just wait it out and see what Baker does, maybe we see a mid-season extension. We've seen that in the past before. It's possible. I like Baker. What I saw in that, like I said, the Ravens game, and I said I was going to talk about a little bit more, the Ravens game that he had at the end of the season there where they just went at it for just the most thrilling game of the season, 100%, back and forth, big plays on offense. But when Baker ran that ball in, slid and threw the ball, I got hyped. I got chills. I was excited for it. And I was like, this guy is a guy. And he gave me that same feeling that he gave in his first game. I was like, this guy is a guy. Everything that Skip Bayless said Johnny Manziel is going to be at Cleveland, Baker has the opportunity to be. And I think he realizes that. And I think that even he is going to want to stay in Cleveland, which is crazy to think about. With my whole childhood, no one wants to stay in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's obvious that, and me being from Northeast Ohio, and now I obviously, I live in South Florida, I still go up to Cleveland and visit every single year around wintertime. And I go to a Browns game every single year. And I was there on Christmas Eve when that was the first and only win of the season when we had RG3 and Cody Kessler at quarterback against at the time, the San Diego Chargers. So I've seen it all. I was there during the 0-16 year. I was there during Baker's rookie year. Now that was when I saw a change. Baker Mayfield fits Cleveland so well. His attitude, the way he works, the way he carries himself fits Cleveland. It fits that city, and they love him there in Cleveland. And it gave them so much hope to see this rookie quarterback come in and perform so well. Then obviously in 2019, he had a down year. We all know that. I would say that's mostly on Freddie Kitchens. We've seen Freddie Kitchens as a play caller now in New York, and that failed terribly as the Browns destroyed them in that game. So now you see a lot more hope being put back into Cleveland with Baker Mayfield. And I was there. I was at the game in week 17 where the Browns clinched the playoffs. I was there. I was at that game, and it was an incredible experience. And even though it was, there wasn't a lot of fans there due to COVID, it's still, the energy in the stadium was unlike anything I've ever felt before at a Browns game. And I'm excited to see what Baker Mayfield can do for the future.
Definitely. Mike, you said something where it's like about like if he balls out and then you got to pay a little bit more. My thing is, what if he balls out because this team is so loaded, right? Like you always look at people where they're like the Mike Clays of the world, adjusted numbers for inflation of stats because he had a low number of touchdown passes. I really believe that number goes up. I believe the passing yardage total goes up second year in the system. And if he has one of those years where he throws for 40 touchdowns and 4,400 yards, and he's in the MVP conversation, we could be looking at like a massive deal as to where I don't necessarily think that's what you would be wanting from him every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying. And that would be a crazy season. Not that I don't think Baker could do it. They step back in the shotgun and let him sling it around all year. But really, I think that with the run first mentality that the offense is going to keep as long as Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That's another guy that's going to need to get extended to is Nick Chubb. That's going to be a tough situation for you guys because honestly, At that point, you usually let the running back go. But are you going to want to? If he keeps balling the way he's balling, you're not going to want to. It's going to be a tough situation. But as long as they have Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I don't know if Baker's going to even have the opportunity to put up those kind of numbers. Just because they're not going to be throwing the ball as much. There is an extra game this year, though.
Yeah, exactly. I think Baker's numbers are going to stay. Obviously, they're going to look a little bit better. I think he's going to get a little bit more efficient. I think his completion percentage is going to go up. And I think his passer rating is going to go up a little bit from last year in the second year of this offense. But I don't think his yardage or touchdown totals are going to increase dramatically just because this offense is, like Mike said, it's a run-first offense. And also, back with the Nick Chubb thing, the Browns need to extend him. You never really notice how a player is until you see them in person. And I've had season tickets to the Dolphins almost my entire life. I've seen a lot of running backs. Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs I've seen in person. I mean, he is incredible. He doesn't get talked about enough. And I think the Browns, they certainly need to have enough money to extend him. But if, like you said, Shawn, or Tony, my bad. My apologies.
I'm good with whatever, brother.
But if Baker Mayfield comes out and throws for 4,400 yards and 40 plus touchdowns and still has less than 10 interceptions, I mean, that's Aaron Rodgers numbers. If he can do that, then I'm completely comfortable paying him the money.
Okay. I see the situation they have in Seattle right now, and it's like, oh, we're giving these guys a ton of money. And I've talked about maybe with Mike, are we on a time crunch at all?
No, not at all.
Okay. So I've talked about this, and I would be interested what you guys think of this. I honestly believe that in about 20 years, these numbers have gotten so astronomical. I think we're going to see a lot of quarterbacks especially saying, you know what? I wish I would have taken 2-3 million less a year so that I really could have flexed on my potential. Because everybody goes, oh, well, that's $3 million. Yeah, but when you're getting a guaranteed 90 million, you can get with a portfolio guy, you can get with investors, you can take that 90 million, flip it into some, non-fungible token coin and become a billionaire overnight because money makes money. So if you got 90 million, take your 90 million and make 900 million instead of trying to be greedy and sucking all the talent out of your team. And now you got Aaron Rodgers whining like a baby about, I don't want out of here. They draft quarterbacks and I want more money. It's just like, I think we're going to see in 20 years, guys saying we should have adopted the Tom Brady method on our first contract and maybe taken 5 million or 3 million less per season.
All right, Brett Favre fan. Got to throw a little Aaron Rodgers slander in there where you got the Favre jersey hanging up right behind you. But I agree with you. And also you got to realize that, let's say Baker takes a pay cut to keep the team together, to keep the band together, to keep Nick Chubb on the team for a couple more seasons. Let's say they give him a 3-year extension or something like that, and just see how long he can keep this kind of dominance going. And they win championships. You're going to get paid that money that you cut. You're going to get paid on the back end. When you retire and you're a multi-time Super Bowl champion, that money is going to come back to you. Tom Brady is going to make way more money than he took in pay cuts after his career because he is Tom Brady, 100%. And Baker Mayfield or any other quarterback, like you're saying, Tony, could do something similar. I hope Herbert is willing to do it. Win championships, become a legendary football player, and for the rest of your life, like Brett Favre, you're going to be set. It doesn't matter if you took pay cuts or not. Make sure you win those chips.
Yes.
All right, you got to love it. All right, I think is that it? We're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up now. Good talking with you, Payton. Thank you for coming on the show. Any last second plugs, or you want to throw out your tags one more time?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at PD Sports and then TikTok at PD Sports. And then I'm going to be trying to do a lot of live shows on my YouTube channel. So make sure you go check that out. Just look up Payton Doyle Show on YouTube and hit subscribe. And I also have a message. Brian Bolstered Up Sports. Book it. Browns Super Bowl this year.
Yes, sir.
Brian's in a real tough spot because he has to maintain his Baker hate at this level, but Baker's play is increasing and getting to the same level as his hatred. So he's going to be in a pickle this year. Week 10, we're going to sit down Payton Doyle and Brian on a show when the Browns are 9-1, and we're going to say, okay, Brian, let's hear it. Let's hear what you got to say.
Yeah, I'm going to need that. I'm going to need that official apology when Baker comes out and sets the world on fire this year. I'm going to need that official apology.
All right. Payton, you entered the war zone and you did great. Tony Tucker, I'll see you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. I guess I'll see you Friday night also. Then I'll see Joe Morley on Friday Night Wars.